Hi, in a recent YouTube live I showed how to use the new vinyl auto blade to make a craft quote project, and I mentioned that the auto blade comes with various additional activation features. So in today's video I'm going to try and explain where the features are and how to use them. So the first thing I would say is that you can buy the basic vinyl auto blade with its activation card as one option, but then there are other options available. So you can buy the vinyl auto blade with its activation card plus additional activation cards. So there's a Mickey and Minnie Disney activation card that you can buy as a kit, and then I think there's also another one that has the Mickey and Minnie card and possibly a Frozen card as well. The activation that I've got is the Disney activation, and I'll insert a picture. And then I'll also insert a picture of the basic blade and activation card. And these two cards that I'm showing you here today in the video is what I'm going to be talking about. So once you've activated your card, whichever card it is, you do that in Canvas. Then we'll have various places to look for the additional features depending on which card you've activated. So if you have the vinyl blade activation card plus the Mickey and Minnie Disney additional cutting files, then you access the cutting files through ScanNCut Canvas online, so the cloud-based version or the version that you access through a browser. And once they're activated and you log into your Canvas Workspace online, this is the screen that you should see. So you should see Canvas Projects, which is where I am now. You should see My Projects, any other pattern collections that you have that you can see or have activated, and then a Disney tab. When you click on the Disney tab, it will take you to all the cards you have activated under your Disney tab. Now I have several, but I'm going to zoom in on the vinyl auto blade kit. So once you click on the Disney activation card that came with your vinyl blade kit, this is what you will see. So mine came with the Mickey and Minnie additional characters, and there are 34 designs in here specifically made to use with the vinyl cutting blade. From here you would choose a design that you want to cut. It will show you the mat, or if it's spread over several mats you will see additional mats here, and then you would click on the big download button and choose to download the file. It will drop into the downloads folder on your computer, so wherever that is on your Windows or Mac computer. Mine drops into my downloads folder in my taskbar at the bottom of my screen, and then from here I can put this onto a USB stick and insert it into my ScanNCut machine. Alternatively, I can actually select the mat and the download button, and I can choose again whether to download it directly to my computer or whether to transfer it via Wi-Fi, because I use an SDX 2200 Disney machine and that's got the Wi-Fi enabled. So that's two ways to get the file from within Canvas onto your machine. If I go back to Canvas Projects and to a new blank page, in here you will see that there is no vinyl blade additional features. If I click on the Premium tab, again, there are no additional features. The only additional features I have in my Canvas Workspace online are the rhinestone and the printable sticker, and that's because I have those activated for my machine. So to be able to use the vinyl auto blade, you need to use Canvas Workspace for computer. So the downloadable program that you install on either a Windows or a Mac computer. So I'm going to close Canvas Online down, and this is now my Canvas Workspace for computer. You can see it looks different. There's no big download button, and that's because there's nothing to download from the internet. I have the basic features that you would normally see in Canvas along here and here, and then here is my rhinestone, here is my foiling activation because I have that feature activated, here's the piercing tool I have activated, and here at the bottom is the vinyl auto blade additional patterns that come with the kit. So if I select this, you will now see in here it says vinyl auto blade, and all these additional patterns become available for me to use. And I think there's 21 patterns in total in here. So if you just buy the vinyl auto blade with the basic activation kit, this is what you will see. If you buy the vinyl auto blade with the Mickey and Minnie Disney kit, you will get an additional 34 Disney cutting files, but you activate those in Canvas Online. And if you buy the auto blade kit that comes with the Mickey and Minnie and or the Frozen, again, the Frozen character cutting files will be accessed in the online version as I've just shown you. So now we're in the download program. This is where all the fun begins. So basically you can choose a design and drag it onto your mat that they are giving you free, and you can resize these. You can use the edit tab over on the right hand side, and you can flip them, and do whatever you want with them. And there are all sorts of things in here. I'll just grab a few on. I mean, you've got this feather that says wild and free. And if you select the edit icon at the top, it will show you the sizes of these designs. I'll just drag a few on. You've got eat, sleep, create. And again, you can see the size. This one says welcome home, and it's got like a bit of a flourish on the end of it. And again, you can see the size over here. You've got the Christmas tree, but again, you can make these designs bigger. You've got this design, which is Nature Always Inspires Us, with the whale and all its intricate pattern within it. There's so many designs on here. This one, if you look at the edit icon, is 10.68 inches wide, and it's 22.59 inches high. So if I just shrink the view down to 20% on my screen, you can see this is a Halloween inspired or Halloween themed vinyl project. And this comes in bigger than my 12 by 12 mat. And again, there's another one here with the dream catcher. Again, this is just over 10 inches wide by 23.25 inches high. So there are bigger designs in here as well, Christmas themed designs that you could cut in removable vinyl and put these on your windows, or, decorate your house with them and then remove them, once the festive season is over. And here's another one. This one is 27.87 inches high and just under 10 inches wide. So they're giving you a variety of designs to be able to cut from, various size media. Now, one of the main features of this vinyl activation kit is that you can break the design down to cut it from a smaller mat if you've not got the vinyl roll auto feeder extension, which is the kind of unit that clips onto the front of your machine and enables you to cut vinyl off a roll rather than cutting vinyl that you stick to your mat. So I'm just going to concentrate today on cutting projects using a mat, either a 12 by 12 standard mat or a 12 by 24 mat. But the facility is in here within this program to use your roll feeder and cut directly from your roll. So I am just initially going to drag in one of the bigger designs, and this design obviously is the Christmas bauble design, and you can see here it's 10.64 inches wide and it's 19.29 inches high. Now, if I have the 12 by 24 mat, this will fit on my 12 by 24 mat, no problem, and I can cut it. And to do that, you would come down to your artboard, which is the bottom icon over on the right, and you left click and select that. And then at the top where it says artboard, you can see by default it's set to 12 by 12. If I click on the downward facing arrow, I could choose to cut on a 12 by 24 mat. And if, I have the 12 by 24 mat, I just put the design on it, send this design over to my machine as I would any other design, and cut it. But if you've only got a 12 by 12 mat, that doesn't mean to say you can't cut this design. So I'm going to come back and I'm going to come to 12 by 12 mat, and you can clearly see that this design is too big for the design. So from here, how do I make this cut on a smaller mat? So what you do, you're in Canvas for Computer, you go to the top of your page, and right above the top of your Canvas page where you will see things like File, Edit, Layer, Display, you will see a tab that says Premium. If you click on the Premium tab and scroll down until you see Tiling. Now you may not have to scroll down, you may only see Tiling in there. I have other premium functions, so that's why I get more than one option. So if you choose Tiling, it will bring up this tiling box for you. You can give the design a name. By default, it comes in as untitled. If you want to call this, let's say, my 12 by 12 split Christmas bauble design, you can put whatever you want in here, basically. I'm going to leave it as untitled for now. And then here, where it says tiling size, this is where you get to choose. Now again, you may not have the other options that are shown here. I have other options here because I have the sticker kit, and with the sticker kit you can work from A4 or letter size paper. So you may only see 12 by 12 and or 12 by 24. So for this example, I'm saying that I want to cut this design that's over 19 inches long from my regular standard 12 by 12 mat. There's a function here where you can choose to overlap your design. Now this particular design is a vertical design, and I don't necessarily think that just breaking the design down to cut on two 12 by 12 mats, I need to build in an overlap design. But if I did, my machine is set to work in inches. If yours is set to work in millimetres or centimetres, your increment here may look slightly different. I'm not sure. So if I, just for example, choose the upward facing arrow, I can choose to have my design overlapped by a minimum of 1/4 of an inch, or I can take it up in bigger increments. And this kind of just builds in a little margin for error. And if your design, is quite big, you may want to build in an overlap. It's something that you're going to have to play with. I can't give you a kind of definitive answer. But for now, for this video, I'm just going to leave the overlap as 0. If I want to build in a weeding box, which basically is just a shape around my design, and the weeding box doesn't have to be square or rectangle, it can be circular if you choose to add your own weeding box in manually. If you choose to put it in within the design, by selecting the box here, it will put a shape in as near to the design that it can see on your mat. So you can see here, this shape it's put around the first part of my mat is, very nearly square, but the shape it's put round the bottom half of the design, which is in the preview window here, is kind of more rectangular. But that's just because the height of this element of the mat is shorter than the height of this element. I hope that makes sense. You don't need to put a weeding box in at all. You can choose to put your own in. In the design I showed you in my recent YouTube live, where I cut the craft quote, I explained there that I just put a box around my design directly on the ScanNCut machine to act as a weeding box. Again, if you're doing that manually, you can choose a shape that fits your design. So if you're doing something that's more circular and you want to save space with your weeding box on your vinyl, you might want to use a circle. But again, I'm just trying to kind of cover various scenarios. I mean, personally, irrespective of what shape I've cut in vinyl over the years that I've used vinyl, I've always tended to use, a square or a rectangle. But I'm just trying to explain that if you're doing it manually, you don't have to, okay? The spacing by default, I think I've only looked at this program very briefly, and I don't recall ever touching the spacing. So I'm guessing that the spacing by default is 0.12, but again, you can increase the spacing or decrease it. So I'm just going to take the spacing down to what it was. It will put my design over 2 mats, and it's broken it up for me in the best way that it thinks it can do it within the software. So if I'm happy with all that, I can just now say export, and it will ask me, where do I want to export this file to? I would normally initially always choose my desktop. So I would say choose, and it will now put this design as those 2 ScanNCut FCM cutting files onto my desktop, and then from there I can get them onto my ScanNCut machine. And again, if I just zoom out, you'll see that this is my original design. If I go back to the edit icon, this is the original design as it came in from over here from the Auto Blade Patterns at 19 inches long. But I've been able, using the activation features with this blade, to break this design down into 2 separate elements and be able to send it to my machine and cut it on 2 separate mats, and then I'll be able to weed it and join it back together to put it, somewhere big enough that's going to house a 19¼ inch design. So I'm just going to get rid of that. So I'll bring in another design. Now this design is nearly 28 inches long, and you can see my 12 by 12 mat in the background. Now again, if I want to cut this on a 12 by 24 mat, I would go to the artboard, I would change it to 12 by 24, and because it's over 27 inches long, it still won't fit on my mat. So again, I can go up to the top of the page and click the premium tab and tiling. The tiling size is set to 12 by 12. You can see a preview of the 27 inch design here in the preview window in the bottom left, and it's broken the design up into 3 mats. And the reason that it's got these funny names at the top here is because I've not given the file a name here. So it's coming as untitled, and it basically is giving it titled 1, A, B and C. As I said, I could change the name here, and I could save this file, you know, calling it tropical or something like that. It doesn't really matter, you don't have to, but it's a good practice to give your cutting file names. Now, as I said, so in Canvas, I said that, you know, I would maybe want to cut this design using a 12 by 24 mat. So if I had a 12 by 24 mat, I would choose it in Canvas as I've just shown you, and then again within the tiling window, I don't need to have my design broken up into 3 12 by 12 mats because I've got a 12 by 24 mat. So I come to the tiling size, change it to 12 by 24, and the software has rearranged the design for me to cut from 2 12 by 24 mats. So it's tried to put the majority of the design onto the 12 by 24 mat, and remember this design was over 27 inches long, and then it's put the second element of the mat, which is this bit down here at the bottom here, onto my 12 by 24 mat. So again, I could send this over to the machine, I could load my 12 by 24 mat and cut the big element, and then I could load the 12 by 24 mat again and cut the small element. Or if I've not got the 12 by 24 mat, I can tell the machine to break the design up into 12 by 12 and spread it over 3 mats for me. So I hope that makes sense. So there are options basically. Now I don't want to export this, so I'm just going to cancel it. So here is my, you know, big design, and it's basically, if you've got the 12 by 24 mat or the roll feeder, you know, in addition to your standard 12 by 12 mat, then you've got more options within this weeding facility. If you've only got the 12 by 12 mat, you can still view how big the design will look on its bigger mat, but when you choose the premium function and tiling, you would obviously have to make sure that the design tiling size here is set to your size mat. Okay, so now I can choose custom size if I want to. Within here now, the way I understand it is that I can make the artboard anything up to 59 inches in width and anything up to 70 inches in height. Let's just say I want to cut this design at 60 inches in height, which would actually be its width because this is vertical and this design, you know, should be horizontal so you can see it properly. So I can change the height up to 70 inches. And you can now see, if I zoom down even more, I'm at 10%, I can't go down any lower. You can now see how big my artboard is in comparison to this design that when I go to the edit tab you can see is 27 inches long. Okay, so if I wanted to make this design, I'm going to drag it out by the bottom corner, and let's say I want to make it so it's 60 inches or thereabouts in height. Okay, so at 60 inches high, this design is 21 inches wide. So I could cut this as a big vinyl project. I can see how it's going to look at the biggest size. If you have the roll feeder, I believe the longest roll of vinyl you can cut is 6 foot, which is 72 inches. So you could attach your roll feeder to your ScanNCut machine, and you could cut this from vinyl directly from the roll in one piece without having to use any mats. If you wanted to cut this design and you've not got the roll feeder, then you can still cut this design that is 5 foot high or 60 inches high, but again you would need to use the tiling function. So I would go back to the top of the screen to Premium, choose Tiling. Now I would say that if you are wanting to cut vinyl designs that are big like this and you don't want to invest in the roll feeder, I would suggest you invest in a 12 by 24 mat, because as you can see here, this tropical design set to tile over 12 by 12 mats has broken the design up into 11 different cutting sections, if you like. But if you change the tiling size to cut this design from 12 by 24, it will readjust how it breaks the design up for you. And as you can see here, it's broken the design up over 6 12 by 24 mats. So that would save you time loading and unloading a mat 11 times. You would just load the bigger mat 6 times. And again, you can see in the preview window here how it's broken up your design. You can see the red vertical line going down, and you can see the horizontal lines going across. So each one of these mats here is represented by an element in this grid section here. Again, you can say yes, put a weeding box around, and it will build in a weeding box around each one of the mats. And it will do this whether you choose to cut this design on the 12 by 24 or whether you choose to cut it on the 12 by 12 mats. So again, if I wanted to cut these 5 mats, I would choose Export and send it to the machine and cut it. So give it a name before you choose Export, because it's always good practice to give your cutting files a name. I'm just going to cancel this, close this down, and I'm going to get rid of that design. I'm going to come back to my artboard and I'm going to change it to 12 by 12, but you can put any size you want in this custom tiling section up to 59 inches wide and 70 inches high. So you can see if I put 59 inches and 70, this is what I now see, this big rectangular section. And that is really more just to give you a visual idea of how your bigger designs are going to look. Now, you may not need this feature. You may never cut vinyl this big, But if you buy the Auto Blade facility with its activation card, you've got these options. I'm going to change mine back to 12 by 12 for now because that's the standard view that I normally like to use. Okay, so something else I want to point out. So I'm going to choose the Christmas tree design. And on the Edit tab, you'll see that this design is 8.29 inches wide and 8.7 inches high. I can drag it out and make it bigger if I want to. When I click on this design and I select a colour fill, and I know somebody's bound to ask me because they always do, when I use a Mac and when I choose the line or fill options, mine shows as pencils. It's just a Mac thing. If I colour this design in with red, you will see that this vinyl will cut out obviously all the letters, and if you were cutting this in red vinyl, you would see the colour through the words wishing you peace, love and joy of whatever you were putting it on. So if you were putting this onto a mirror, you'd see mirror behind it. If you were putting it onto a piece of, you know, black wood, you'd see black through these elements. You can, I believe, use your offset functions within the program. So I've got the basic vinyl tree here as it came in, as at its standard size. If I wanted to layer this up, so if I wanted, say, let's just say I want to make a green tree, I'll colour the tree green. So I'll come back to my pencils and I'll colour it green. But what if I want to maybe put it on another layer? Okay, so I'll leave the tree green for now. You can see that the words are see-through. If I come to the offset icon, I can choose to make a matting layer out of vinyl for it, like we do for card layers. So by default, it's coming at 0.20. I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to say outward because I want the matting layer to be bigger. I can choose whether I want rounded or bevel as the angular shape. Now the tree sections are slightly curved, so I'm going to say round for this. And I'm going to leave everything else as it is and say OK. So now it's given me an offset layer that I can colour in just for the video. And I'm going to make that red. I'm going to right click, I'm going to go to arrange and send to back. So I can still apply an offset layer to these designs and cut vinyl in two different colours and layer the design up. Again, you know, you would just make sure that the two elements are within the red cutting bounding area, and you can send the design to the machine. And while you're in here, you can also add a weeding box from within your basic canvas mat, as well as when you go to the premium function. Now for this one, because this design fits within a 12 by 12 mat, you don't really need to use the premium function. So you could say, yes, add a weeding box. We'll ask you the style of the weeding box that you want. You can choose your options here. I'm just going to choose optimize weeding lines and I'm going to say OK. And it's put a weeding box around the design. And if I want to do the same for the matting layer, I would do exactly the same. I would go to weeding box, say OK. And when I select this design now and click away, you'll see it's put the weeding box in for me. Want to use the weeding box? You can hit undo. And then you're back to without your weeding box. If you do apply the weeding box from within Canvas here and say OK. You can see this layer has got the weeding box around it when I click off. If you go to your Layers tab, the weeding box will appear. And if you think I'm not sure whether I need it or not, you can turn it off. Okay, so there are various options and various ways of doing different things within the program, as there always is. So I'm just going to go back to the designs that are in here, and I was going to use a different design, but I'll use the tree again. So I'm going to bring the tree back on, and you can try and see if you can play about with the shapes. So if I go to the basic shapes and let's look for a star, and I'll bring a star on, and if I think, this tree might look nice with a star, I'm just going to position the star over the top of this vinyl design. I'm going to select both and I'm going to hit weld and see if we can weld the star to the tree. So again, I'm on the Edit tab, I'm in Process Overlap still, and I'm going to say Weld. So now I've made this design bigger by adding the star on it. So then I might think, well, actually, I'll cut it bigger. So I'll drag it out, and I've made this design with the star now. So it's 12.14 inches wide, and it's 16.79 inches high. So let's say I want to cut it at 18 inches. So I'll change that to 18 inches. Because I've got Maintain Aspect Ratio selected, the width has changed now to over 13 inches. So again, now this one will not cut as it is on my 12 by 12 or 12 by 20 format, because it's wider than 12 by 12 for a start. So I would go back to the Premium tab, to Tiling, and again I can choose if I'm only cutting it from a 12 by 12 mat. You can see it's broken the design up here, and these two tiny little elements down here, it's put onto a third mat. So from within here now, I can see that I've got these two little odd elements, which are these two bits down here. So I would cancel this, select the design, and in the width here, I would probably put, let's try 11.75. And because we've got Maintain Aspect Ratio selected, that will adjust the 18 inches high. And then now it's made the height 16.25 inches. If I go back to Premium and Tiling and say, cut this on a 12 by 12 mat, it's still got a tiny, tiny, tiny little piece up here. So again, I would take this down a bit smaller. I would go to 11.5, which is adjusting the height to just under 16 inches high. And I would go Premium Tiling, and I would play about with it until I got the design to cut how I want it to cut. So as you can see here now, this design has been broken up vertically into two mats, because by making the design 11.5 inches, it will cut comfortably over the width of the 12 by 12 mat or a 12 by 24 inch mat, if that makes sense. So if you're not unduly bothered about the size of your design, play about with it here and then try the tiling feature. Now, if I wanted to make this tree, really big, let's say I wanted to make it, well, we know we can go up to 70 inches high, but let's just say I wanted to go to 25 inches high and say enter. That would make the width 18 inches, which is well over the 12 inch wide of a 12 by 12 or a 12 by 24 mat. So this time if I go to premium and tiling, it will break the design down. Again, it's breaking it down, so it's trying to get, you know, as much as possible over the 12 by 12 mats. You've still got a couple of stray mats here with, you know, a couple of little bits, and you can see where they are in the design. So again, it's a case of playing around with your design to get it to cut from the size of mat you want to use, to give you the best possible way. If you're not bothered about cutting this from a 12 by 12 mat over 6 mats and having, you know, these 2 little elements and these 3 little elements here and this 1 little element here, which is, you know, kind of down here, then just cut it. I'm just kind of trying to show you the different ways that you can play with the software. So again, I'm going to cancel that. I'm going to get rid of it because I don't want it. And I'm going to come back to the vinyl auto blade designs. But again, you can make your own design. So if you come into your basic shapes and you want to make, I don't know, let's say, you know, 2 hearts, weld them together and make them bigger than the 12 by 12 mat. Again, you can come to premium and tiling and it will split the design up for you. You can add a weeding box and you can play about with the spacing. So you don't have to just use the designs that are within the auto blade section of your Canvas Workspace for computer. You can make use of the tiling feature and the weeding feature with your own designs. So just as a recap, the tiling feature and the weeding feature and the additional auto blade designs are all found within Canvas Workspace for computer. If you buy the auto blade that has got any of the Disney activation extras with it, they're found from within ScanNCut Canvas online, as I showed you at the beginning. So I hope that that is helpful, and I hope together with the video I showed how to cut the vinyl craft project, that the 2 things will now start to make sense. Anyway, as I say, I hope that is of help to you. Please give the video a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel if you've not already done so. You, I believe, will not receive email notifications from YouTube anymore. The way that you will be notified now, if I upload a video or if I go live, is by having the YouTube app on a mobile device, so on a mobile phone or a tablet. And you have to make sure you have notifications turned on within the settings of your phone or tablet. And if you have all that enabled, you will get what are called push notifications from YouTube. So you'll get a notification on your phone or your tablet. YouTube do not send email notifications out anymore when creators post new content or when they go live. So thank you, and I hope to see you in my next video.